Innet sat alone on her worn-out couch, the soft glow of her phone the only light in the room. She scrolled through endless posts, each one more meaningless than the last. But tonight, something was different. The weight of all the anger she'd been carrying, anger at the world, at those who had wronged her, at herself, had finally caught up. It clung to her, heavy and suffocating, and she didn't have the strength to shake it off. Her finger paused over a video. The voice in the video was unlike anything she had heard. It was soft yet cold, a voice that whispered promises of vengeance. "They will pay," it said. Innet's tired eyes flickered with curiosity. She leaned in closer, the shadows of her dimly lit living room creeping around her. The voice promised power. Power to get back at those who had made her life miserable. She had never believed in such things before. But now, with nothing left to lose, she couldn't stop herself. She watched the video again and again. In the days that followed, the videos continued to appear on her screen, each one darker than the last. A strange sense of hope began to grow within her, hope that maybe, just maybe, this was her way out. One night, after another day of feeling beaten down, she gave in to the temptation. She gathered the items the video told her to find: salt, an old candle, and a necklace she hadn't worn in years. Sitting at her kitchen table, she lit the candle, muttering the words softly under her breath. The air in the room seemed to thicken, and the flickering light cast strange shadows on the walls. But as quickly as the moment came, it was gone. The room returned to normal, the candle now nothing more than a stump of wax. Innet felt a fleeting sense of triumph. Surely something had shifted, she could feel it. She smiled to herself, believing the hex had worked. But that night, sleep refused to come. Innet lay in bed, her heart pounding as her eyes searched the dark corners of her room. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was subtle at first, a flicker in her peripheral vision, a shadow where there shouldn't have been one. But soon it was everywhere. Sleep became impossible. During the day, she found herself drifting off from sheer exhaustion. But whenever she woke, the shadows seemed to linger longer, as if they had been waiting for her. The mirror was the first to betray her. One morning, as she stood in front of it, brushing her hair, something in the reflection didn't seem right. Her eyes, once bright and full of life, were hollow, dark circles forming underneath them. Her skin looked sickly, her face drawn and gaunt. But that wasn't what made her heart stop. No, it was the smile. For a fleeting moment, the reflection in the mirror smiled back at her. Even though her own lips remained still, she stumbled back, her breath caught in her throat. But when she looked again, the reflection was just normal, tired, but normal. It had to be a trick of the light, but deep down, she knew. Days blurred into weeks. Innet's body began to waste away, and her mind was consumed by an unrelenting fear. The shadows that followed her grew darker, more defined, and at night, they were no longer just shadows. A figure, tall and indistinct, would stand at the edge of her vision, watching her, always watching. Innet stopped leaving the house, stopped taking calls, stopped everything. She couldn't trust the world outside. But even more terrifying, she couldn't trust the one inside her own home. One evening, as she sat in her living room, she saw it clearer than ever before. The figure in the shadows, watching her. No, looming over her. It wasn't just any shadow. It was her, the witch from the videos, the same one she had turned to for help. Her tall, distorted figure stretched across the walls, dark and menacing, the light from the phone screen casting an eerie glow. Innet wanted to scream, but no sound came. She was too weak, too broken. Her body collapsed onto the floor, her mind unraveling in the cold, suffocating silence. She could feel the life slipping away from her, the last remnants of her soul fading into the darkness. Tears streamed down her face, but they were met only with cold indifference. The witch's shadow lingered, watching, waiting. Innet had been a fool. The hex hadn't been for her enemies, it had been for her. And now the witch had come to collect. As Innet lay there, her breath slowing, her heart barely beating, the room began to change. The shadows stretched, reaching across the walls and floor, closing in on her limp, lifeless body. Somewhere in the corner of the room, her phone buzzed to life. The witch had claimed Innet's soul, but her hunger was far from satisfied. The phone, now an instrument of her dark woe, would find someone new. And somewhere out in the world, an unsuspecting person would soon receive a message. The screen glowed unnaturally, and slowly a message began to appear, typing itself out letter by letter. It was reaching out, searching for its next victim. The only question left was, who would be next?